Hey, welcome everybody. Paul Mauro again. Welcome back to Smart Financial Lifestyles. I got my three books out. I got a special guest today because it's September 2025. We're sort of like rushing toward the annual enrollment period, otherwise known as the AEP for Medicare. In my book, especially on smart financial grandparenting, I talk a lot about our older population, really paying attention to their Medicare choices, and especially in my longevity book, for those of us that are planning to live to 100, this is going to be a very big topic. But I want to welcome Sylvia Gordon, and Sylvia represents, tell me if I get it right, the Gordon family empire of Medicare people.
Yes, the crown has been passed.
Oh, it has. Okay, so my dad started in the insurance industry in 1960s, which is where I started too, by the way, before I started investing firm. So was it your mom and dad that started the business?
Yes, and my dad just died about 6 months ago. You can see his cutout over there.
Oh yeah, I do.
Yep. Um, we had that at the office, like what would dad do and everything.
Cute.
So people are like, why is that in your house? It's like, well, it's motivating.
Oh, that's great. That is a very sweet story. Well, sorry to hear about your dad, but we all go through it. This is the cycle of life we're in. All right. So, who works in the business in your family? I think I saw you and another young person too, maybe online.
Well, we have several different businesses.
Okay.
Our first business trains insurance agents all over the country. That's Gordon Marketing. We're one of the largest distributors, middlemen between the insurance companies and the actual insurance agents that talk to you. So
Okay.
that was my primary job for 30 years, training agents all over the country. Then I started working with my son on the side because my son works with the actual retirees. We work with agents. He
Okay.
works with the retirees, and that's where I started doing educational videos. And that's a separate company. So there's three of us in the family over there, and there's 13 of us in the other building. And then we have another, like a local property and casualty agency if you need
Ah,
business insurance and car and boat and stuff.
yeah. I started in the PNC industry. It made me so crazy.
I don't
Of
like it.
the
Yeah.
Yeah, of the three, well, yeah, of the three businesses we had, that was when my wife and I sold that, it was like, oh my God, it was like one of the happiest days. It wasn't even the biggest check, but it was a joy. And I have to say, the industry's changed a lot. Okay. And again, in 50 years and with your family, 40 years. So we're going to talk a little bit about Medicare today, but I sort of made a little crack when we were doing our intro to each other. I mean, we have always felt that late life healthcare management is wealth management. I mean, there's just no way around it because the numbers can be so enormous and damaging to people if they don't plan and stuff like that. So, as wealth managers, investment managers, and all that stuff, we trained our people we have a dual business, the investment management business and then the insurance business, because if you don't have right risk management products, you waste all this great investment money that we built up, right? So, Sylvia, you have great presence online. Tell me what you think about what's coming up this year uh, under the AEP. I mean, and the changes that are going on in the industry. If I feel like it's going to be very chaotic for our senior citizen clients. Tell me what you think.
Well, it's a very bleak year, and anybody that tries to spin it otherwise is being a little bit naive or disingenuous. The Medicare Advantage market is 20 years old. This is our 20th AEP, the annual election period. And in that 20 years, it went from being a fringe product to being the majority product. More people are now in a Medicare Advantage plan, private Medicare, than they are in government Medicare with a Medicare supplement. So it was neck and neck there for a while, and now the majority of people are in Medicare Advantage. We don't expect that to slow down. But this year is a big reset. So last year we had 1 million people that received a letter saying, hey, sorry, your plan's gone. Go pick a new plan. And that was unprecedented. This year it will be more like 1.3 million. So that's not good news for those people that don't read their mail. And I really didn't realize so many people didn't read their mail. I'm one of those people. I hate to read my mail.
Huh.
So when my husband goes out of town, he's from Canada, that stuff will pile up there for 2 weeks. That's fine. That is fine with me. He can deal with that. And he's always like, or it'll be in the mailbox. And he'll go, "Did you get the mail?" I said, "I will absolutely never get the mail out of that box. I hate mail." And I just thought, well, that's a weird eccentricity as you get older. Yeah, apparently it really accelerates into your 80s because I have kids my age saying, "I went home to see my parents. They had a huge stack of mail. I finally worked to the bottom of it and found out they lost their insurance December 31st." I cannot tell you how many people said that. So now I'm warning you. I'm like, if you're an adult my age and your parents are in their 80s or 90s,
Yeah.
go check on their mail because they'll be getting that letter. 1.3 million people will get that letter this month in September.
That's really interesting. My wife, who's Canadian, by the way, my wife is phobic about her mail delivery, her email reading, her and the weather. I mean, those are her three big things in the world. That's
Does she
it.
not check the weather?
Oh my gosh, she checks it all the time. She's
Oh,
obsessed. She's obsessed with the weather and the mail. Anyway, it's not, listen, it's one of the reasons I love her. She pays attention to things I don't pay attention to. That's all great. That's our team. That's our team. Right.
that's why he's the team male. I am not the team male. I hate
Right.
mail, and apparently there's a lot of people that don't read it.
Yeah.
Well, it can be catastrophic when they go to the doctor in January.
Yeah.
So January, I was painfully aware of this. And then we still had people in February because they didn't go to the doctor in January. And in February, they're finding out the bad news that their insurance terminated. And they're like, "What do you mean it terminated? I pay it every month." They don't understand Medicare Advantage is written for a calendar year and they can leave. They
Yeah.
can just leave.
So we are in Massachusetts and we operate in New England. So tell me again, you guys are in the Midwest somewhere? I forget.
So our office is located in central Indiana, but we're
Okay.
licensed in all 50 states, the
All 50 states.
medicarefamily.com. Yep.
Yeah. And you know what's interesting? I mean, we have very wonderful guaranteed issue rights in Massachusetts. We're very liberal, we're very progressive, and all kinds but that's not true everywhere, you know. And I do feel like this year in particular, from all the press about the difficulties with United Healthcare and everything, that there's going to be less choices for people.
Very much
For
so.
yeah, yeah, very much so. And then tell me how you think this change, the BBB bill and all that stuff, and the lack of subsidies. Tell me how you think that's going to affect the middle income and lower clientele.
Well, the BBB impact on Medicare is still speculative because it's not a direct impact on Medicare. It's an increase in the budget, which triggers a mechanism which reduces Medicare expenditures in the future. So it's you can't point to something and said the bill did this to Medicare, the bill did that to Medicare. The bill raised tariffs, and most of our drugs are made overseas.
Mhm.
The bill raised tariffs, and a lot of our medical equipment is overseas. So we're seeing an increase in those two areas, which just, plows right into our overall increase in medical inflation. If you look at how much things have gone up over the last 10 years, you look like telecom and food and housing. Hospital is way up here. Hospital inflation is by far the worst. So that hits you if you're on a Medicare supplement, if you're on Medicare Advantage, it's going to hit everybody. And they like to say a part of this is because during COVID, which is, 5 years ago, that people weren't allowed to go to the doctor, that all non-essential care was canceled basically for 2 years. So a lot of people that would have had their mammogram, found their breast cancer at stage one, didn't go, and then they kind of got out of the habit of going every year. And so now they're going and it's stage four and it's much more expensive. So they're blaming a lot of these price increases that everybody on Medicare is feeling on COVID. It's
Tell me
weird.
about the lower income people. I interviewed a guy in Connecticut recently who told me that a large number of his young people that were lower income, starting up their financial lives, were getting very substantial subsidies to help pay for healthcare that are all sort of either disappearing or being greatly reduced. Do you have sort of an understanding of that whole picture?
So that also, which it doesn't sound accurate, but it's also all going back to COVID.
Mhm.
So during COVID, the government had a lot of emergency measures. and they slowly expired. So Biden extended them for a couple, so
Yeah.
they're slowly expiring. One of those was expanded tax subsidies for people on the Affordable Care Act.
Yeah.
So like an extra 2 million people got subsidies. Well, that subsidy was meant to be an emergency for this 2 years. Then they expanded it. So it's not that the current administration got rid of it. It expired. So those 2 million people that got in are likely to get priced out. Now,
Hmm.
there's other things that this administration has done to put pressure on the Affordable Care Act, but you won't feel most of that until after the midterm elections next November. That's by choice, by design. But that's really, so people think it's going to be bad this year. It's going to be really bad next year.
Okay, good. That's good information. Okay, so next, I noticed in my little book, let me grab it. I have to get off the floor. Okay, here we go. You probably have one of these too, like Medicare and you. Although
Yay.
you look way too young to have one of these, but I am actually qualified for this. Anyway, so I had the great pleasure of curling up with this, and I wanted to ask you about page 43. And in page 43 of this lovely little thing, which I have yellow highlighted, it talks all about home health care services for 8 hours a day, 28 hours a week. I have to tell you, it sounds like a fairy tale to me because in our experience, and again, I don't know how it is in Indiana, but in our experience, I don't know anybody who's actually been able to find home care providers that get qualified by Medicare who will actually provide this particular service. Have you?
So in about 22 states, if you're, let's say my husband is on Medicaid,
Yeah,
my mom is on Medicaid.
yeah,
So of course, Medicaid is different in every state. Massachusetts being a more liberal state, more likely to have it there, but I don't know for sure.
yeah.
That Medicaid can pay a caregiver for home health care up to 8 hours a day. So, like California does this,
Mhm.
New York does this. Most of the red states don't do this. But this is not really through Medicare. Medicare doesn't pay for home health care. Medicare pays
Although,
for occupational therapy,
yeah.
speech therapy, and physical therapy on a limited basis. But really, like what we think, somebody to come into our house and take care of us, that's going to be Medicaid.
Yeah, it's interesting that they put it in there. In fact, it's the funny, and the reason that I look at that page 43 is it's in the Medicare and You guide, and it was in the Medicare and You guide last year, right? And we actually had a number of our clients that are older that needed a little bit of part-time care, and they picked up their Medicare and You guide, and
And
they
we're
flipped the
misled.
page. But yeah, definitely. I mean, it's almost like I have to say this sounds silly. It's almost like something that might have existed years ago and they just keep reprinting it, even though it's not true. So yeah, the home care situation and the nursing care situation is a very, very big part of this. Now, I interviewed an attorney recently, and he had a very negative opinion about what we have been calling the Medicaid planning industry, which has been an army of lawyers all across the United States who made it their life business to get folks qualified for Medicaid by disposing of assets and doing things so that they sort of artificially um, bankrupted themselves, basically. All right. And he's quite negative about that industry in particular. He thinks that the restrictions under Medicaid, right, are going to be so much tougher that he feels like that is going to be very tough to do. Now, I'm not, by the way, making a political opinion about this. I guess if rich people want to try to qualify for Medicaid, that's their business or whatever. Um, but I think that he's quite negative. It used to be pretty easy. The way he described it 5 years ago, lots of affluent people would come. They would do a few things, move some money around 5 years ago, do the 60-month waiting thing, qualify, give their money to their kids or their irrevocable trust or something. He feels like that industry is on very thin ice as a result of some of the changes that are going on. Um, tell me about what do you think about Medicare Advantage as opposed to traditional Medicare and Medicare supplement plans. Do you think the supplement market will be impacted?
Yes, it's negatively impacted, and that is exponentially growing. So when Medicare Advantage was on its way up, every time it took a member away from Medicare supplements, a healthy member that doesn't use it, why pay a monthly premium if I don't use it? That's the thought
Right.
process. So every time it takes somebody away, then the people that are left on the Medicare supplement is a smaller pool of older, sicker people who can't move or wouldn't find it financially advantageous to move. So as that just keeps going, more healthy people go over here because these prices go up. These prices go up again. More people say, "Well, forget it," and they go over here. So the government is allowing that to happen. It's allowing Medicare supplements basically to die on the vine, not by any regulation, but by not propping it up. They haven't given us anything since 2010. They haven't added a dental benefit. They haven't added anything to compete with Medicare Advantage. So the government's been very, this is both parties, has been very upfront that they want everyone in managed care. They want everyone in Medicare Advantage. So a Medicare supplement is becoming more and more of a luxury product for the rich. I tell our clients at the Medicare family, buy the best healthcare you can buy. And if you can afford a Medicare supplement, start your retirement journey there with the note, with the knowledge that you probably won't end up there. You probably can't afford to keep it if you get a double-digit rate increase every year. So we got a double-digit rate increase this year across the board. Doesn't matter what company you had. You might have gotten a 10%. I had somebody complaining about a 19%. And I said, well, that's not even bad because I just had a lady with a 24%. And yes, I had somebody with a 40%. I, so it's bad, and it's going to be the exact same for 2026. So if you can't afford it, you're going to go to Medicare Advantage even though you don't like Medicare Advantage. This squeeze is going to keep getting worse and worse. Only the very rich will have Medicare supplements.
Interesting. Yeah, that answers my affluent question. So tell me about the other thing that's going on. So we are experiencing an unprecedented number of home sales and Roth conversions and one-time blast to income, where somebody all of a sudden has $1 million income. Tell me about your experience with the IRMA appeals process. Have you had anybody go through the IRMA appeals process for that one-time event and win?
We've had thousands and thousands of people. I have a chapter in my book. I think it's chapter 7 on Medicare IRMA. And I keep telling people, even if you don't want to read a book, read chapter 7 before you touch your tax deferred money, before you sell your business, before you sell all your rental properties, the farm. Sometimes you don't really have a choice about selling the family house if you're downsizing, but you need to at least understand the Medicare IRMA brackets. And can you appeal it? Sure. The appeals process is in my book. It's a simple form, but the form is misleading because the form says, hey, there's these 5 conditions. And then at the last, it says other. So people go, well, mine's an other. I took all the money out of my 401k because I wanted to remodel my house. That's other. That was a one-time event. Well,
Yeah.
it was a one-time event, but it's not appealable. That was a taxable event, and you got to pay the piper, meaning you have to pay more for Medicare Parts B and D for 1 year. Not this year, 2 years in the future. And if you're married and you're both on Medicare and you filed your taxes jointly, which most couples do, both of you will get hit on it.
And the IRMA one-time blast, which kicked in 2 years later, lasts for 1 year.
1 year.
Right.
Now,
And then,
you might get lucky and if you start Medicare, so I have somebody starting Medicare for the first time this year, they're turning 65 December. So it's prorated. So if what I did 2 years ago in 2023, I cashed in my IRA, I didn't know what I was doing, so I just put it in my checking account, cashed it in. That's going to trigger IRMA in 2025. But since I'm starting Medicare IRMA in December and it's recalculated on an annual basis, I'm only getting hit for 1 month.
so that's the IRMA thing. That's the tax cost. That's the premium. Let's just talk about healthcare. I mean, access to great healthcare. We have, as I said, Massachusetts, very high guaranteed issue sort of regulations. It's that kind of a state, right? You work in all the 50 states. And we have snowbirds that go from literally Massachusetts to Florida. or North Carolina or something. Are there particular states, in your opinion, you're working all 50 states, there are particular states that are better for people when they are doing their Medicare planning? I mean, if someone is like looking to make a decision about downsizing to North Carolina, South Carolina, or Florida, do you find there's more choices in one state or another?
So there's a lot more competition. Competition's generally good and drives prices down, but then you have to put that up against state regulation. So Florida is more expensive than most states, but half the price of New York, you know. Massachusetts more expensive than most states, also probably half the price of New York. So North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, Georgia, that's kind of a sweet spot where you still have good competition, you have low prices, and you don't have the regulations that are driving the prices up.
Interesting. So yeah, we have obviously a lot of snowbirds here, and they all play the 180-day game. Whether it's true or not, they all decide that they're in Florida long enough to pay taxes in Florida and be a Florida resident and stuff. But for some of them, they come back to Massachusetts because we have a teaching hospital under every rock here. I mean, it's like ridiculous. I mean,
Right.
all these movies that they make in TV about hospitals in Boston are true, right? And so they come back for their services. And I noticed that some of the HMO based plans, right, where people claim they're residents of New Hampshire or Carolina or whatever, if your PCP is at Mass General Hospital in Boston, I mean, they're really like not approving under this new pre-approval for claims thing. They want you to get services provided in their plan area down in Florida or North Carolina, right? So we do have a lot of that going on. And I think if I read it right, are they now instituting for Medicare Advantage in 6 different states pre-approval process for claims?
So it's called prior authorization.
Yeah.
It's a level of bureaucracy and red tape that what it does is it delays your ability to get care. It definitely frustrates you in your doctor's office. It might persuade you not to get the care you need because you're so stuck up in the system, but it's a hallmark of Medicare Advantage, of all Medicare Advantage, of all companies. And people have been the most thing that's dissatisfied with Medicare Advantage is this one thing, prior
Yeah.
authorization. There's lots of lawsuits. There's been some legislation to try to make it better. So we know the government knows we're mad. And so the last thing we expected in the whole world was for the government, Medicare, to say, you know what? We think prior authorization can save us money too. So in 5 states, starting in January, they're doing a demonstration project. Now, when Medicare does a demonstration project, generally it's like 3 years, and then it rolls out to all states. Every once in a while, they pull the plug, but they're not going to pull the plug on this one. So in those 5 states, they're following the playbook from Medicare Advantage. They're not just following it, they're hiring their same contractors. They're using their same software. The one thing that we all complain the most about, prior authorization. So, like for example, one of the things that's abused a lot is artificial skin for wound care. So the amount that is spent by Medicare Advantage on artificial skin is like this, it's infinitesimal. The amount that was spent by original government Medicare is like $3 billion, something insane. So the fact that it's so out of whack tells you nobody's watching over here. Medicare Advantage watches every dollar. Nobody's watching government Medicare. So government Medicare said, we're going to start watching. We're going to make your doctor prove that you need to have the care for only a few procedures. So it's not everything. It's not a delay and a tactic to stop everything on government Medicare. It's they're going after the top conditions that they see the most fraud, waste, and abuse. Like the wound care is at the top of their list.
Yeah, we do hear a lot of grouching about that. So, two more grouchy areas, right? Hopefully there's something positive in this. I know you said it was a bleak year. I definitely I have the bleak feedback. Again, for after 50 years with 4,000 clients, we have a lot of people that have situations, you know. One of them, which I'm going to just remind everybody, because I know you're probably an expert on this too. We had someone travel to Italy for their, the great retirement trip of their life, saved up, fly to Rome, get on a cruise boat, have, all the things are teed up to go to see everything from the Crete to the Vatican, to all this kind of stuff. So she had a heart attack the first night on the cruise boat dancing. The wherever it was, they had to turn the boat to go to Croatia. That cost them like $5,000. And then they got offloaded to some hospital with like a bulb, single bulb swinging above them and, flies. And the way their husband described it, it was quite an interesting story. And they would only take cash. And so it was the American Express card. And anyway, and then they had to do Medivac her to London and all this kind of junk. Emergency surgery saved her life. They're back, but it carved like a $40,000 hole in their wallet. Now, I will tell you that we have a lot of folks who save up and travel in retirement, and you probably do too, right? And I guess not all plans or not all sort of insurance agents would ever remind their people that this foreign travel thing's a big deal. I mean, it's a really big deal. If you're a senior who's going to travel a lot, in fact, I just went on a cruise to Alaska. It was really funny. My wife, she's very Canadian. She's very conservative, right? There's no way she was going without that Medivac insurance to get helicoptered off the back of the cruise ship. It only costs like $120 a year or something ridiculous, right? Um, but do all plans that you work with have options, Medicare Advantage plans have different options. Do they all have foreign travel insurance coverage, or do people just have to plan on buying it separately?
I tell people to buy it separately, regardless of the plan they currently have. If they have a Medicare Supplement Plan G, the best coverage that you can get, regardless of the carrier, it comes with $50,000 of international coverage. If Medicare would have covered it, you have to pay for it. You can get reimbursed. You get your bill transcribed into English. You can submit it and get reimbursed. It comes with a $250 deductible.
Yeah,
I still tell people to buy separate insurance
yeah,
because like in your situation, there might be air transport involved. There might be translation services. There might be all these other things involved, plus the cost of what was the husband doing? He had to buy this extra flights.
yeah.
He had to buy
Was
extra hotels.
Yeah,
So
theirs was a mess. Theirs was a mess, and so I'm glad to hear you say that because again, this is not a commercial for the AIG company, but I will tell you they have been very good at paying claims for our clientele that use their travel coverage, and I forget exactly what the hell it's called, but I'm sure they can call you Sylvia and you'll look it up. But anyway, I think that it's great. It's like a band-aid over that 3-week trip of your lifetime where you're going to be, riding horses in China or something. Okay, let's talk
But
about.
as a corollary, let me add something, Paul,
Yeah.
that people with Medicare Advantage, which we've established more than half of retirees are on private Medicare, they often misconstrue their international travel benefit, because you have the whole summary of benefits of all the millions of things, and they
Yeah,
see international travel and they gloss over that. But it's in the back of their head and they're thinking, oh, yeah, that covers me if I'm international. No, it will cover you in an emergency. So in your situation, when the lady had the heart attack, that was the emergency. Once she was admitted to the hospital in Croatia, that's not an emergency.
right.
That is not covered. Once she was medevaced, not covered. Once she had surgery in London, none of that would be covered by your Medicare Advantage.
Good point. That is really good. Yeah, I think that people see that word,
And
international.
they just think it's something that it's not. It's emergency coverage. And not all of them have international emergency coverage. So you've got to look at your plan.
Right. And it's so inexpensive too. I mean, a lot of people buy it with their travel packages, and we happen to just like buy it direct from the insurance company, aforementioned insurance company, but that's a free plug for them. Okay. Now, let's talk about a couple of things that are going on right now. Um, this is sort of feedback from people that we have as clientele, and maybe there's some solutions to this. The clients that we have whose husband, well, it's always women with a husband in a nursing home. We actually have a woman here in Massachusetts whose husband is in a nursing home, and it is like a lot of nursing homes, very dependent on their 65% Medicaid clients that are paying for the nursing home. So they are experiencing, I guess, cuts. They were, by the way, on a 3% profit margin anyway. So they have notified her that that nursing home facility will be shutting down, even though her husband's a full paying passenger. It's because the other 60% of the people are Medicaid. So we seem to be having an issue with beds for uh, institutionalized nursing home patients because so many of these nursing homes, apparently, according to the Hospital Association, there's like 900 of them on the list that are marginally financially viable. And if they lose like 10 cents more, they're out. They're just going to shut down. So they sent her a letter and said, prepare for us to, should be shutting down, find your husband another place. She's pretty apoplectic. Yeah, she's really, I mean, he's got Alzheimer's. He's done, I mean, he's not going
Uh,
back to, you know, I think, unfortunately, even in a pretty well-funded state, I mean, we're going to have some of these issues. And the other one is this term you've probably heard, bureaucratic disenrollment, I mean, is it really true that there's 15 pages of paperwork for dual eligible people to complete to stay on, you know, dual eligible plans? 15 pages of paper? That's like seems incredible.
who told you that?
We got this from a consultant that we work with in the Medicare business, and he calls it bureaucratic disenrollment, that they're not going to knock them off, but there's a 15-page requalifying form that they have to fill out for duly covered qualified people. Now, we don't work with a lot of low-income people. I mean, the nature of our wealth management business and where we are, but I don't know if you see a lot of duly qualified people.
So we do the bureaucratic disenrollment, which is a good term, is going to hit those under 65 the hardest because
Oh,
they're all being required to recertify twice a year.
oh, maybe that's what he meant. Yeah.
And they have, yeah, and they haven't staffed up. They haven't hired twice as many staff, put in twice as many phone lines. So we know by design that a lot of these people will fall off the Medicaid rolls because they won't be able to get through to get recertified twice a year.
Yeah,
But for
that's
people that are dual eligible, they still only have to do it once a year. It's not hitting our duals.
oh, okay. All right. Well, I guess that's kind of a bright spot. Was that a bright spot?
Yeah, it's a bright spot.
Yeah. Well, we don't want to get too negative and funky, but it's going to be quite an enrollment season this year. I mean, we've been through a bunch ourselves. Our representatives that we have that work with our clients on Medicare, we brought it on as a service to our clients. I don't know how some of our older, especially frankly, some of our older single widowers and widows that don't open their mail. And no, really, they're like you, Sylvia, except older. They don't open their mail and they don't pay attention. And I think it's going to take a lot of handholding. So we're reaching out to the children, which we've done for years. We reach out, we have that, that responsible party form we use for all of our financial things. I spent some time in Washington lobbying for the investment industry for that Senior Safe Security Act, the shared Brown bill, which was great for us. It gives financial advisors, investment advisors, liability protection from violating the privacy of a senior by calling their child and saying, "Hey, your dad's going to fall off his Medicare if you don't do these things," or he's spent all his money on his latest girlfriend or something. I mean, we can intervene now with impunity. That's a good thing. But I think that they're going to need a lot of help. Our seniors are going to need a lot of help. So speaking of that, this is bringing me down to the big punchline for Sylvia Gordon. Okay. Um, Tell us how people contact you for help around the country. What do you think is the best solution for this upcoming AEP for our older Americans to get one-on-one help? Do you think it's going to be Zoom for everybody?
I think people are going to have a hard time finding available appointments that people like to procrastinate till after Thanksgiving. And then they don't have that much time and they will find that they cannot get an appointment, that their advisors will have already been booked up and that
Mhm.
it's something that we need to warn people. You need to be booking your appointments immediately in the month of
Yeah,
October.
good advice. Get an appointment
Do
early.
not wait. Do not wait till November. And by God, don't wait till December. I know a lot of my friends that do the same thing. They cut them off at a certain amount. They just cut them off, and the phones are off and the appointments are off. If you want to book an appointment with our team, we've never had to cut people off because we typically will just work nights and work weekends and try to
Yeah.
be able to accommodate everybody. I don't know if we'll be able to do that this year. There's only so many hours in a day,
Right.
but you can go to our website and book an appointment, but only a week in advance. Our
Okay.
website's themedicarefamily.com. Like you said, we're a small family business in Indiana. My parents started it 45 years ago. I've been doing it for 30 years, and my son's now the president of the company. So 3 generations.
That is so great. I know you probably saw the emails going back and forth. My two assistants that started with me 50 years ago, Terry's with me 48 years, Kathy's 38 years. I mean, they really run the place. So yeah, I mean,
That's
it's no
amazing.
mystery. It's
Yeah.
like no mystery. But yeah, they help our Medicare license reps do that. But I will tell you, I feel as if one of the issues is going to be that a lot of our older population is still not Zoom comfortable, and they actually want to have that face-to-face interaction thing. This has become very difficult. This
We
is
don't
going to be,
do Zoom. We only do phone consultations.
oh, you don't do Zoom. Oh,
No, we
okay.
found that a lot of people like they don't like I got to clean my house up because you can see my house. They don't want to clean their house, especially women. I know the feeling. I don't want to do my hair. I don't want to put on makeup. I don't want to change out of my whatever. So we found people prefer not to do Zoom.
Oh, okay.
Uh, and that was something I learned during COVID. They were like, I don't want to clean this mess up. My grandson's coming over and his toys are all out.
Yeah.
We do it over the phone. What I tell people that said I'm used to doing it face to face, I did it 20 years face to face, is that if you're uncomfortable with the person that you've let into your home, sometimes you don't know how to get them out. And that there can be many uncomfortable situations where you felt pressured to buy something because you don't have that on the phone. If you feel like the person you're talking to is at all overstepping their boundaries, boom, you just hang up.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
we found people love it. They find it's very freeing because they can do it anytime. Some people are still working or they're volunteering. They'll go do it in their car for an hour. They just step out. They can do it anywhere at any time.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, last question, and I wanted to tee you up for things that you think are the most important hotspot issues for the over 65 population this year. What are you like top three or four things to pay attention to? Oh, what a face, Sylvia.
You know,
You have more than three or four? Is that it?
are most of your clients on a Medicare supplement?
I would say it's 50-50. Medicare Advantage, Medicare Supplement.
Okay. Well, for the Medicare supplement client, they had a big rate increase. They're facing another big rate increase. They're going to take a very large increase in their drug premium. So those letters are just starting to come out. They have to receive that letter in September. I had the first people call me this week and they said my
Mhm.
plan went up $50. And I said, wow, that's no
Yeah,
surprise because the government limited the increase to $50. So you will see a lot of plans that are going up $50. Well, if your Medicare supplement went up 20%, and your drug plan's going up $50 and they're no longer covering some of your drugs because that's another I gotcha.
yeah,
A lot of people need to do the math and move to Medicare Advantage during this annual election period. They can use their trial rights if they want to come back. If something happens or they get scared, they have that 1 year free look. But they need to do the math and think, oh my God, can my budget sustain another rate increase for my Medicare supplement company, which you will get in 2026?
Okay,
Plan.
math is important, by the way. Math is always important. We've actually had people, it's interesting you say that. Medical care and healthcare is one thing, but in the wealth management business, math is a real big thing. And we have had some people who are healthy and they went Medicare Advantage, they went a zero premium plan, and they pocketed maybe $40,000 of savings. And we tell them, don't forget, you're on an Advantage plan, you have a MOOP, right? You might spend seven or eight, but you've pocketed 40 grand in the last 5 years. Okay. So the math is really important. Okay. Next, number two.
The other thing is, I would counsel people that just because you've been on a Medicare Advantage plan for years, it might be the time to go back to a Medicare supplement. You're getting older, your friends are getting sicker, you're looking around and you're realizing, I might be lucky, but it might be time. And I moved my dad back from a Medicare Advantage plan he'd been on for 13 years to a Medicare supplement plan at age 88. Not because he was
Wow.
sick, because you can't, in most states, you can't do that if you're sick.
Mhm.
I did it because I said, it's time. insurance is a gamble. You've gambled for 13 years. You've made a lot of money. You've saved tons of money. I want you to have the safety of a Medicare supplement because you don't know what's going to happen. And you don't know if the whatever you contract, the specialist is in, another time zone and a lot of travel involved and red tape. And you need to look at going back to a Medicare supplement. My dad did not want to do that. He was very much against it. It cost him $450 a month versus paying $0 a month on his Medicare Advantage PPO.
Yeah.
So he was very much against it, even though he was an insurance professional. You can't be a doctor to yourself and you can't be an insurance agent to yourself. I said, look, I'm putting my foot down. You're doing it. So he did it, not to jinx him, but about 8 months later, he got cancer. And he was like, oh, thank God I did this. Thank God I decided to do this. You know,
Cute. Very cute.
I, but that's one of the stories I want to share with people. Like you save money. At some point, you might want to think about if you can afford to go back. Because most of us don't have the luxury of dying peacefully in our sleep. Most of us endure a very expensive, drawn out medical
Yeah.
ending to our life.
Yeah, totally, totally. All right, that's really good advice. That's probably such a great family story. It's a good place to end. So I really appreciate you taking the time today. And I think that people who listen to this are going to be well aware of how much you know and how to get a hold of you. And if they don't have any contact information, you can reach out to us at on our channel, smartfinanciallifestyle.com, right? We have my 3 books are out, they're on Amazon. People can attend one of our events, but certainly because you work all over the country with all that experiences, plenty of people that I think are going to need your help. And I want to thank you very much sincerely. I think this is a super big, important time. And it is a little bleak. We don't want to be overly negative, but I think if you were ever going to pay attention to your Medicare coverage, 2025 and 26 are the years. Thank you, Sylvia Gordon.
My
And
pleasure.
yes, and the Gordon family. And we'll see you next time in cyberspace or something.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you. Bye-bye.